retweet that. And I'm going to retweet that. And I'm going to get my show notes back up. And we're going to see if these things are working. And then I think we'll be ready to go here in just a minute. That is... Really don't want to have to do the chat manual. That would be super annoying. And then we'll come back in here and just check out what's going on. Do 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 bum 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 ba doo ba doo 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 doo. I'm seeing some people viewing. It looks like Restream's finally catching up. I just got a flurry of YouTube messages. Aditya Anil, Fat Produce, Yolanda, Charles, Cheryl. All right, it looks like we just might be live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sizes and sorts, welcome to another SGGQA podcast, Monday morning tech chat show. This is where we talk some tech. We definitely like to focus on some news stories that I feel might have slipped through the cracks. And why I like to do the show on a Monday is we can spend a little time digging through some of that news and not feel like we've just got to rush to the next headline. And then also the QA. I am Juan Carlos Bagnell, the SGG, the SomeGadgetGuy of this podcast hashtag. And the QA stands for the fact that this is an interactive tech chat show where I like to get a little feedback, like to engage with the live chat. If you're catching this show every Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, then we get to have a conversation. And yeah, I think we've got some fun stuff to talk about. Just a little housekeeping, just as we get started. I am real bad at keeping a calendar and scheduling and managing reviews and videos and stuff. So my channel went a little quiet last week as I was getting some things set up, had to readjust some stuff in the studio. I mean, you can kind of see behind me there. If you're watching the video, I kind of got some new acoustic paneling up on the walls. Doesn't really do a whole lot for the actual acoustics, but it looks a lot better on video than just having blank walls, especially with the weird sort of tan paint that's in this room. I should probably repaint this room at some point. And then I have way too much stuff to review in-house. So I'm currently sitting on, I think, 5 pairs of headphones, 2 phones, a standing desk. I do need to finish the video on the standing desk that came in, which is super large and really big. And then a whole bunch of other just knick-knacky accessory things, microphone, 2 microphones. And then I just got in the MateBook. So, this the quick tease, the first impressions video on the MateBook is going to be coming out tomorrow. It's already in preview on Patreon, but yeah, so that'll be out too. I'm trying to keep my wits about me as I plan what video is supposed to go where and when and how I'm supposed to get all this stuff shot. So that's super fun. Cheryl Abdul Rahman, is the shadow from the window or is it dust on the camera? It's actually a cracked camera sensor because I still haven't had time to swap out cameras and stuff. So like the nice camera, which does the good live streams, is actually my main production camera. I need to get another HDMI feed out from a camera that can also be charged easily over USB. It's really, really silly. It's some funny, silly stuff. And I think my video just froze. It's going to be one of those podcasts, I feel. Hold on one second. Let me get that. I'm just going to plug that back in. Now I need to reset this. Oh, everything's going to burn to the ground down around me. All right, here. No, cancel. Remove. Yes, I'm sure. Dark screen. Video capture device. Cam. Okay. And it didn't do it. Hold on. We are going to fix this live. I feel like every show we need something, right? Cam 2. Okay. Okay. Expand. Elevate. Let me get rid of all of my on-screen nonsense. And I think we're back. Okay. So, fixing some issues from some frozen guy. And now, some technical difficulty guy. I like that one. Because we're doing it live. We're fixing it live. You know what? Let's jump into some news. Let's see if we can get through this with a minimum. Oh, I also need to, let's mute that camera because that's going to get real wonky if audio is being fed from the camera and my mic. There we go. So I need to pull window capture up there. Okay. Yes, short story long. Lots of reviews, lots of videos coming out. I have on the calendar about a dozen videos in pre-production that now I actually just need to buckle down and finish stuff. I've got 3 videos actually shot that need to be edited, but then have I need to finish up B-roll. The life of a YouTube tech reviewer is a very strange and varied thing, and I've actually started telling new companies that it might take me about a month from time of receipt to finish reviewing your product. And a few people have actually gotten very frustrated about that like, oh, that's so long. And you're like, I can't help that. I am literally a one-man show. I'm producing content for other channels, and I'm hosting content for Newegg. I'm going to be doing some more TV appearances next month. This is what the life of this is what this lifestyle looks like. That's the word I was trying to come up with. Sharil Abdul, I'm still looking forward to your RGB workstation with your RGB list of RGB stuff and RGB chic. Well, I definitely need to finish that up too. That's on the list of the dozen videos that I've got to finish putting together. I keep saying, well, as soon as I wrap up, just a couple little touches and the cable management and optimize a few things, and I'll get that video workstation out. I have been running this PC so hard, I haven't had time to take it offline to shoot content of the PC so I can do a video on the PC. All right, let's get into some news. That's enough whinging on about first world tech reviewer issues. This first story has been an interesting conversation that I think is a very sad state of affairs for where Google is headed and what's going on with like consumer privacy, consumer data. Let me fire up screen share here. This is directly from the R Programming subreddit, and this is Google proposes changes to Chromium which would disable uBlock origin. And when you click on this, we actually go to some of the extensions. The extensions implement manifest v3, and this is someone who's flagged this video, who's flagged this extension as a possible issue in Chromium. Let me just read from the notes here. Some of this gets a little heady with some of the programming language, but I think y'all all get the basic idea of what the concerns are. From the description of the Declarative Net Request API, I understand that its purpose is to merely enforce AdBlock Plus compatible filtering capabilities. It shares the same basic filtering syntax, double pipe to anchor to host name, single pipe to anchor to start to end of URL, caret as a special placeholder, and so on. The described matching algorithm is exactly that of an APB-like filtering engine. If this quite limited API ends up being the only way content blockers can accomplish their duty, this essentially means that 2 content blockers I have maintained for years, uBlock Origin and uMatrix, can no longer exist. And this issue report goes on to just sort of further explain why changing this API is a bad idea. Limiting the API immediately cripples one of the main lists that we use for AdBlock. And this does feel like the current trajectory that Google is heading, making products and making services which are starting to become significantly friendlier to major corporations, to where ad dollars actually come in to fill Google's coffers. and not necessarily the best possible solutions or the most consumer friendly solutions, especially once we start talking about how much of your personal data goes through, your web browser. TK Bay jumped in, and Steve DeRoche. Excellent. Steve DeRoche, I need to start learning how to edit video professionally and offer my services. Well, actually, Steve, if you want to start working on how to live stream professionally and offering your services, my setup here would definitely appreciate it. And then Peter Hayton joining on the Periscopes. Definitely appreciate you guys jumping in to catch the show. Cheryl, the ad block shenanigans. I mean, just 30,000 number of sites. It's so limited. And Marcel joining in saying it's already night in Germany. This is frustrating. This is really frustrating because I really feel, even if your business model depends on acquiring user information, selling advertising, bundling all of that up for companies to make their profits off of, and we all kind of know that when you do business with an outlet like Facebook or an outlet like Google, the reason why you get this free service is because you are essentially part of the package that's being sold. You are part of the product. You aren't the customer. But when we see changes like this, I think it's even more critically important at this stage to double down on the conversation that you can diversify your services. You do not have to do business with one company as a monolith. I know Apple fans like to make their argument about ecosystem, and Google fans like to talk about all of the software and services working well together, and one of the reasons why you have that fan base for the Pixel. But over the last year, I've been working really hard to just spread myself out. So now there's a loose collection of Microsoft, Amazon. My main browser now for both my desktop and my phone is Firefox. The most recent updates and changes to Firefox have been great. In fact, I feel like on my desktop, Firefox performs better than Chrome does in the current build. And with the choice of ad blockers that I choose to implement, I feel like that performance is warranted. And uBlock works on my phone, so that has it's a perfect seamless through line from my desktop browser. I'm logged into Firefox. The services that I choose to store password information seamlessly move over to my phone browser. It's been a really nice combination of services, and I like that continuity while also spreading myself out. So not every single thing I do goes into the Google bucket. From Peter Hayton, limiting user choice. Oh, live chat's going too fast. Limiting user choice is generally bad, but as someone who relies on ad revenue, can this be good? So the reason why I have become such a big fan of ad blockers, even though I make a part of my living on ad revenue, is it's part of the philosophy of a few bad apples spoiling the whole barrel, right? So you can't just stop at, there's just a few bad apples. There are a few bad apples that ruin it for everybody. And so when I look at the consumer behavior, when I look at a recommendation from my grandmother, when I look at a recommendation from my mom, there are enough bad actors out there putting out malicious code in banner ads, in clickbaity ads, in phishing scams, that if companies like Google are going to make ad blockers weaker without necessarily improving the situation for how those ad buys work, how ads are targeting some of the most susceptible and some of the most vulnerable consumers in our marketplace, then we need to find other systems of monetizing content. My ad rates on Google have been terrible. Obviously, December of 2018 was the best month I had out of the year because those ad rates climb, the numbers are great, and I was looking at my data and looking at my metrics with almost 4 times the number of subscribers, with millions of minutes of watch time, with tons of videos tracking and trending fairly well. All of my numbers are on the rise. All of my subscription numbers are on the rise. Everything on YouTube is an order of magnitude better than before I joined Pocket Now. But my payout for December was almost half of what my last December payout was before I joined the Pocket Now team with only 20 or 30,000 subscribers as opposed to 80,000 subscribers that I have now. So I'm not really missing out on that much ad revenue if people are watching my videos with ad blockers on. Every little bit helps, but I feel we need to make that strong consumer statement that until companies clean up their act and companies actually crack down on this stuff themselves, then I think we need to have a better arms race for blocking anything which might be potentially malicious. We can't keep the internet running on an ad revenue model if enough players in this space are putting out harmful content, malicious code, malicious content. So it's not good for everyone using really, really strict authoritarian ad blockers and not disabling them for I do disable uBlock for the sites that I enjoy using. That is also part of it. Is you can whitelist a site and run the ads on sites that you feel are doing business in a way that you would want to do business with them. But when it comes to my grandmother, I don't care. I just say nuke it all. Shut it all down. I don't want her in any kind of vulnerable or compromising situation based on web data being trafficked. So this is also another primary point in that conversation why so many people are looking at trying to diversify their monetization. Why I'm producing content for Patreon is exactly that situation where, if ad revenue isn't going to get the job done, if my videos are still mysteriously demonetized, if the SEO doesn't work out, like I can only make videos which YouTube already deems popular. If I wanted to turn my channel over into an all pixel or all OnePlus channel, my numbers would be way better. Because those things trend and the numbers look really good, but that also means like I know I have to take that hit if I do a video on the Razer phone or if I do a video on an LG, that those numbers won't look nearly as good as if I do a video on an iPhone or I do a video on a OnePlus. That's what an advertising revenue model looks like with YouTube right now. If you're going to really crack that and you're really going to do well, basically you need to upload a video every day, which I'm not going to do, and you need to keyword it with the most popular SEO so that YouTube seems to have more of an algorithmic reason to continue promoting your video and putting it on other suggested videos so that it all kind of links together. And that's where you get this self-reinforcing echo chamber and this toxic fandom for specific brands. It all sort of circle jerks itself in the worst way possible. I got a ton of comments coming in here too. From Cesara, you're so underrated in Periscope, bro. Well, just the fact that you're watching me on Periscope, Cesara, that's awesome. And you can rate me higher. Give me them hearts and help share the video and help share the message. Steve DeRoche, Chrome is becoming Google's walled garden. I absolutely agree. And it's concerning because I feel like this is another opportunity that Google is missing to clearly delineate a product, a service, and an operating system. Because Chrome is loosely being blurred in the consumer mindset. I mean, if you know your tech, obviously you know where those lines are drawn. But in the general consumer sphere, it's just sort of getting smeared. It's a product, it's a service, it's an advertising base, it's a web browser, it's an operating system, it's a floor wax, it's a dessert topping. And I don't like this kind of ambiguity, and I don't like this uncertainty from Google. Same thing with their messaging apps. I want to know where you're going, and I want to be able to build an expectation on some kind of an arrival point. From Ronald Collins, I'm using Edge with AdGuard. Actually, Edge browser is not bad. And I think it's funny. So my usage on Edge started with it just being sort of the default PDF viewer, and then I never installed another PDF viewer. Like, it works really fast, it works really well. And from there, I kind of slowly started trickling out into other usage, and especially on touchscreen Windows laptops. If you want more of a tablet-style browsing interface, Edge is awesome. I really do not like using Chrome on Windows with a touchscreen where Edge works great. Let me scroll down. People talking about the weather. That's never good for a podcast. Steve DeRoche, just become some pixel guy. There, monetization solved. Google would love fronting me all that. From Q3 Quebecer on Periscope. Loves me some Periscope. If we want to switch a few people over to Periscope, let's do it. You know, if you guys want to chat with me there, my chat goes to the same place. I wonder which video is actually ahead right now, because I think the delay is maybe even a little longer on YouTube. Aditya Anil, desktop build gone wrong, NSFW not safe, not clickbait gone sexual, slime pranks and frozen let it go song covers, hashtag SGG. So if every one of my videos is that and the thumbnail is me making a stupid face, then yeah, I mean, that's YouTube gold. I really hate playing the current YouTube game right now. I am perfectly happy just with plodding along. I think I'm building around 1,000 subscribers a month, right? That's not exciting growth in the grand scheme of YouTube, but it seems to be culturing a much healthier community. You know, like the chat on my most recent videos has actually been pretty good. And, you know, I'm fine using YouTube for free as a backbone video service until they decide to break something else. And if people find me on there, great, but I'm not playing this game of trying to make YouTube algorithms happy, because then it's a moving goalpost. As soon as you start to get a handle on what makes YouTube popular videos, they change it. So why keep playing that game? The only winning move is not to play. Lawrence Flowers, what do you think of the future of Apple? Actually, we do have an Apple story, so let me move on to the next couple news topics, and we can spend a little time chatting out some of that too. Maybe at the end of the podcast, we can do a little bit more Q&A. As I take a sip of water from the most delicious coffee mug on the internet. All right, I'm not. This is just one of those little updates. You know, we've been talking about cybersecurity. We've been talking about manufacturers that have been having issues in the infrastructure space, especially with all of the buzz surrounding 5Gs, which I'm not particularly excited about 5G yet. The whole commentary surrounding 5G is just making me even more exhausted than I currently am, having recovered from this head cold. So this is a story out of BBC News. Again, just more as a follow-up. U.S. to move ahead with Huawei executive extradition. Now, I'm going to link to this BBC News article. This is not a very good BBC News article, but it's basically a series of individual sentence paragraphs breaking down and highlighting the current state of where we're at. So Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou, this is from the article, was arrested on the 1st of December in Vancouver at the request of the United States. Further along in the article, the U.S. has 60 days to file a formal demand for extradition, a deadline that will be reached January 30th, 2 days from when this podcast is being recorded. I feel that this was a dirty way to do this. There could be some legitimate security and some legitimate embargo issues surrounding Huawei executives, in much the same way that we saw stuff go down with ZTE and their Iran deals. It looks like there is some evidence to suggest that Huawei, in some part, in some group at Huawei or Huawei executives, were also guilty of very similar embargo problems in selling technologies to Iran. I feel like you're not really playing fair when you exhaust the 60 days you have for an extradition while leveraging our relationship with Canada. This woman flies into Canada. The U.S. says, hey, can you arrest her and hold her for us? They do. And then the U.S. takes the full 2 months to finish their extradition process and actually file their paperwork. That, to me, speaks of ill faith in the way that these international relationships should be executed, in the way that these international relationships should be leveraged for law enforcement. This isn't particularly, sort of adept commentary. Like, I'm not super well educated on the business dealings of Miss Wanzhou, so I can't speak to whether or not I feel that, these charges have merit. I just feel like that's not necessarily the best way to go about doing this if we have a strong suspicion or we have good evidence to suggest that these business dealings went down. There is a lot that I feel Huawei needs to answer for, especially in terms of market corrections for leveraging other companies' intellectual property, for licensing out technologies that they maybe shouldn't have had access to, and then especially if they were guilty of breaking sanctions by trying to find, other companies to sell products through, then absolutely there needs to be a market correction on what Huawei has access to. But I don't feel like this was a good faith way to go about doing it. So I don't know. Is this just posturing against China? We've arrested someone who's high up in one of your crown jewel companies, and we're just going to sit on her for 2 months. Does that move the needle in any significant way with United States, Canada, China relationships? And also, I'm kind of curious, like, what was the benefit for Canada here? I know they have this relationship between the United States and Canada, but lately our relationship with Canada has been kind of contentious thanks to the elected officials we have in charge right now. So, let's see. From Fat Produce, does Iran have LTE tech throughout the country? I have no idea what the current state of Iran's telecommunications infrastructure looks like. Let's see. Goran Petrovic, Juan will get cranky if we continue with the weather. It's just not good for a podcast if, like, part of the podcast is actually responding to messages and I'm going through a news story and then I come back and, like, you guys have been talking about the weather because you don't care about what I'm talking about. It just makes my heart sad. Goran Petrovic, Montreal is in Canada. Nice but cold country. The weather, I mean. See? From Marcel Kleppert, Trump wants to protect American companies from countries like China. It won't work. I don't even think Trump wants to protect American companies. I mean, his initial business dealings have not been good for American workers. Well, what might be fair is he wants to protect American companies. He just doesn't care if those American companies do business or hire American talent. So, the company might do well, but no one in the company or surrounded in the company or living in the United States is going to do well for the company doing well. Marvin C., don't make Juan's heart sad. See? There you go. Aditya Anil, oh yeah, the Wi-Fi router in my parents' new home is by Huawei. Not going to give Huawei up. And this is also, it's like every single time a Huawei story comes up, I do feel it's worth reiterating because I'm hoping that those of you out there who are smarter than me about this kind of stuff will point me in the right direction if and when something bad goes down. I don't like the way that the media covers these kinds of stories because they conflate business operations at a global level in telecommunications infrastructure equipment, to the tune of billions of dollars of infrastructure. They blur that with the gadget that's in your pocket right now might be spying on you. So I have a Huawei phone sitting right next to me. I'm wrapping up a review on a Huawei MateBook. I still have yet to see any significant or compelling evidence that these products are any less secure or any more dangerous or any more predatory on consumer behavior than any of their competition. So I still feel like it's fair of me or responsible of me, or I'm not advocating for a company that might be harming consumer interests to talk about their consumer electronics division while we still try to untangle some of these stories about their telecommunications infrastructure business. I feel like those are two very separate forks of one giant umbrella, which, you know, we could try. We could try entangling that, or we could try discussing that with just that little bit more nuance. Let's see. Steve DeRoche, a carrier in Canada, announced that Nokia was chosen to build the 5G network. I would have bet that Huawei would have been the one if it wasn't for that controversy. Absolutely. There was another company in Canada recently. I almost did it as part of the story last week. Did I just... hold on, guys. I might have just lost the stream. 2 seconds. I just want to see if this is still going. It looks like it's still going, but I think I lost my chat. So I might have to pull up chat somewhere else. There was another story that I was going to try and follow up on last week, which was one company trying to stand by Huawei communications equipment, and that didn't go over so well with folks in Canada. If anyone knows what that company was, please let me know. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to pull up chat individually because my chat just wigged out. Here I was just talking up Restream about how awesome they are. Man, this is definitely a tech support heavy podcast. All right, let me get into live chat here. Okay. DT, oh no, we love you, Juan. Sorry for the weather talk. It's okay, you guys. I know I start a lot of conversations off talking about the weather. Sherrill, Orange's actions are more predatory to U.S. businesses than China so far. Well, especially with the shutdown, it definitely took a bigger hit on the economy. Our president's tweeted a number of times that when the stock market tanks, that the president should be held accountable. Also a DT Anil. So the U.S. government is worried about a Chinese spy listening to you speaking in English and is totally cool with Google possibly making an AI. I mean, more than that, one of the things that I find troubling in this conversation and why I sort of always happen to have a tinfoil hat within arm's reach is I don't think our government is very good at protecting the citizenry when it comes to exploits in technology. And we know that they're involved in the telecommunications process at some point to collect, at the very least, identifiable metadata on basically everything that happens over ISP and telecom networks. You know, the NSA, we've detailed that significantly, that there is a sort of culture of observation which doesn't necessarily ally with protecting consumer privacy or protecting consumer data. So it's a frustrating turn of events because I feel this is a conversation. When we talk about a company like Huawei and there's such a huge force in the market right now, I feel that conversation deserves more nuance and just a lighter, defter touch. But our foreign policy and our security policy right now is definitely a fear-mongering posturing set, which I don't feel helps in this kind of a situation. Oh, good. You know, people telling me that the stream is still up. Unfortunately, what this means is I don't know that I can keep the Periscope chat up at the same time and still be able to see everything that's going on. I'll have to dig out what happened with Restream, but we should move on to another story. We have a lot of stories to talk about, and I don't want to talk about my tech support problems the entire time we're on this live stream. So here's a headline that has been very frustrating to cover because this is another terrific example at how terrible, traditional media is at discussing technology news. So you probably saw this around the web. This is from last Thursday, but this is the CNBC story. Apple just dismissed more than 200 employees from Project Titan, its autonomous vehicle group. From the article, Apple dismissed just over 200 employees this week from Project Titan, its stealthy autonomous vehicle group. People familiar with the matter told CNBC. An Apple spokesperson acknowledged the layoffs and said the company will see still sees opportunities in the space. Quote, "We have an incredibly talented team working on autonomous systems and associated technologies at Apple. As the team focuses their work on several key areas for 2019, some groups are being moved to projects in other parts of the company where they will support machine learning and other initiatives across all of Apple. We continue to believe there is a huge opportunity with autonomous systems, that Apple has unique capabilities to contribute, and that this is the most ambitious machine learning project ever." Okay. 200 people from Project Titan. Oh my gosh, that sounds like so many people laid off. How many people work on Project Titan? I can't find any information on that. Looking through, I looked through, I think, around 10 different news articles trying to untangle, is this half of the team that works at Project Titan? Are there 400 people that work on Project Titan? Is this, a tenth of their autonomous vehicle group? Every single article sort of parrots the same talking point and the same quote from this Apple spokesperson. Oh, well, we're just reorganizing and focusing teams on different things. And then almost every single one of them has said, well, I mean, one of the key initiatives is health. This is an article about an autonomous driving division at Apple, and almost every single article ends with some commentary on Tim Cook talking about health tech, which has nothing to do it. So, Bob Mansfield was at Tesla, goes back to Apple, has been a key force in sort of getting Apple to spend a little R&D money on all of this. But how many people actually work on Project Titan? The closest thing I've been able to find, and I unfortunately I don't have the link up right now. There's an article from Business Insider that references 2,700 employees at Apple had clearance and had project files for Project Titan made accessible to them. That does not mean that 2,700 people are working on Project Titan, but that there is a significant pool of talent at Apple that has access and clearance to contribute to Project Titan. So, best case scenario, it's less than 10% of the Project Titan workforce was let go or redistributed or reassigned to other elements of what's going on here. How can no news outlet follow up with that piece of information? Apple layoffs, which is why I put this in the title of this live stream the way I did, because it's clickbaity as crap. Apple layoffs. Oh no, after their recent stock drop. Oh, it's the end days for Apple. How obnoxious. I'm sorry, I totally had to play into it with the way that I did this podcast. But I did that with a purpose, so I could talk about this story, not because I think it's so disastrous or I think it's scary or I think this is in any way a bad look for Apple. It's unfortunately the sort of corporate mantra is, you the end of the year, the beginning of the next year, fiscal years, you kind of clean house and you move people around. Layoffs are sad, but they're not to be. It's not surprising when a company lays some people off. I find it grossly irresponsible from business news sites that are sort of held up as standards for the information that people acquire to make investment decisions and stock market, decisions, can't figure out or untangle beyond just the press release or beyond just like a single spokesperson confirming something what kind of hit to the workforce this might be. That's clown shoes. That's absolutely silly. From Aditya Anil, is Apple undertaking the building of the car entirely, or are they using a third-party manufacturer's hardware and Apple's AI for the autonomous part of the project? Also, seriously, Siri as a driver. So this is actually what I don't think we know what Apple's designs are. Apple keeps this way closer to the chest than Google does. I believe they do have a certain number of cars that are currently out on the road, but I think it's kind of like early days at Waymo and with Google, where I think it's just some regular sport utility vehicle, like a Lexus or a Toyota, that just has a ton of sensors strapped to it, and that's how they're sort of testing their autonomous driving hardware and software. It's not that they're currently building a car. I don't believe at present that there is a manufacturing focus for a full automobile Tesla style. But that's just part of the issue, is we don't know what that's going to mean for Apple later on. Like, in the post-iPhone world, does Apple actually manufacture cars? I don't think that's very likely. It's possible, but I don't think it's very likely. I see it being far more likely that they are looking to contribute to the technology and having technology that can be licensed by other manufacturers. From BVZXA3, I'm thinking they just moved people around to different departments. Apple plus layoffs gets views for the media. Yup, that's exactly what I felt was the silliest part of the media coverage on this. Oh, hey, Viper in the live chat. What's up? Ooh, it's clown shoes, all right. Actually, I just shared a conversation with a Viper today, too. This is a story that I absolutely refused to even link to because Forbes is such a disgusting outlet when it comes to covering tech. Viper tweeted out, hey, guys, have you ever had this problem on the iPhone? And he links to a Forbes article where there's a nasty bug in, iOS 12.1.3. And if this is hilarious, and I need everyone to do this and not click on any of their actual links, but go into your search engine of choice, if it's DuckDuckGo or if it's Bing, and search for Forbes.com, quote, nasty surprise, end quote. And it's like literally almost every single iOS update, a handful of Galaxy phones, a couple Google Chrome issues, almost every single piece of software news that comes out of Forbes somewhere has the quote, nasty surprise. It is so dumb. And so I had to tweet out Viper. I mean, try it for yourself because it's ridiculous how worn out that phrase is at Forbes. It's ridiculous. So again, I've been using the phrase clown shoes for that kind of reporting a lot today, and I feel it's been apt. Just driving me crazy. So many outlets that sort of hold themselves up as a traditional notion of old school media journalism, authority on subjects, doing their diligence, and like, not anymore, man. Not anymore. This is not good. Steve DeRoche, the editor, loves that phrase a little too much. Man, that's so frustrating. And you guys know, like, personally, when it comes to my commentary on consumer electronics, I do not like the recent trends that are coming out of companies like Apple. You know, the next story I have is sort of a counterpoint to some of the trends that I find most disturbing about programming consumer behavior into more disposable products, the human dignity and the human labor that goes into these, the rare earth elements, and we're kind of making things that are supposed to be thrown away, tighter and tighter schedules with higher and higher prices. But if I'm turning to business news sites, I should expect better reporting than what we got here for the autonomous car division being gutted. Oh, 200 people gone. Salting the earth and pillars of fire. And no, I think Apple's going to be fine. I think literally Apple is going to continue being the most profitable tech company the world has ever seen for some time. I don't think we're in any danger there. Might not be a bad time to buy Apple stock. You know, like, because I feel like it'll be on the rise for the next couple quarters as they figure out their business. I don't know. I am not qualified to give investment advice. You know what? Don't listen to me. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, Marcel, at Fat Produce and Juan Bagnell. We want to see you on IFA 2019 in Berlin, Germany. I want to go to IFA. I'm actually talking to Newegg if we can figure out some way of getting Trisha and I, or at least one of us, out there to go and cover some stuff. It's not as heavy for PC gaming and for PC building, but I still feel like there's some fun consumer tech there that would be worth talking about, especially because I think we had a pretty good showing at CES. So maybe we can sort that out. Let me get that back. Okay. So, as I said, the next story is sort of a counterpoint to things that I find troubling in the consumer electronics space. I really enjoy this new wave of editorial that's coming out of iFixit. And so this is a story that went up. I don't know when it went up. I don't think they put dates on their stories, which they should. Every outlet that makes blogs should just put the date when that blog was published. But let me cue this up here. Right to Repair is already hurtling into action in 2019. Written by KK Clapp. Just 3 weeks into the new year, right to repair laws are being proposed across the country. These laws would restore our ability to fix things we own by making parts, manuals, and diagnostic software available to consumers and independent repair shops. The fight is being waged coast to coast with small mom and pop shops up against some of the most profitable corporations in the history of the world. Over the last few years, the ragtag Right to Repair Coalition has scored a number of victories, legalizing cell phone unlocking in Congress, getting the FCC to rule warranty void if removed stickers, null and void, and convincing the U.S. Copyright Office to grant a number of repair exemptions to federal copyright law. And in 2018 alone, Right to Repair made groundbreaking headway on the state level. 19 states introduced Right to Repair legislation, a big uptick from 12 repair-friendly states in 2017. And of course, companies like John Deere and Apple are fighting these pretty aggressively. I had another conversation. I was hanging out with some wacky actors and artists types, and they're all sort of talking about the health and human dignity and how they're putting down their social media and this and that and this and that. And they're all having this high-minded conversation while holding iPhones in their hands. And to their credit, a lot of them were older iPhones. Like one of the actresses I was talking to just refuses to give up her iPhone 6S because she doesn't want to give up her headphone jack. And like, okay, respect there because you're holding on to it longer. But when I see, iPhone 10, iPhone 10, iPhone 10, iPhone 8, iPhone 10, iPhone 10s, I don't know how how much your pontification about philosophy is really being executed in your daily lifestyle choices. Folks, I want you guys to subscribe to iFixit. Put them in whatever you use as a news reader or news feeder. Not only are their teardown, articles amazing. The photography is terrific. You want to see what the guts of your electronics actually look like. But some of their more recent articles, like their blogs, getting a lot better, and they're getting pretty savvy, and I like this consumer advocacy approach. Obviously, they have a vested interest in selling you products and services, and they're not sponsoring this. It's not like this is an advertisement for them. It's because I genuinely enjoy this kind of commentary, this kind of content. It's I appreciate more them selling a service, which is buy a kit from us and repair your gadget. That's the service they're selling, which is putting more control and more agency in the hands of electronics owners. So I have very much been enjoying this new phase of iFixit, and I hope you guys check it out. From BVZXA3, yes, North Carolina is one of the states that are going to legislate this into law. From Sherrill, for once I am happy Malaysia has no anti-right to repair legislation. KK Clap. It's KAYKAYCLAP. It's not a KKK thing. That's not what it is. Sherrill, it's time to call iFixit for sponsorship. Got to get that sweet iFixit cash. Goran Petrovic, Juan, you're becoming an Apple fan. Wake up. No. Nah, I don't think there's any danger of that happening anytime soon. We've got to balance like individual product reviews against corporate behavior, in which case I'm very disappointed with some of the trends that Apple has taken. Let's see. Yolanda Rowe, iFixit has been very useful in maintaining my Asus ROG G74. Also, Yolanda, nice piece of hardware there. Very nice. DeMarcio Fowler. Okay, to play devil's advocate, what's the downside to right to repair? I'd actually be kind of curious. What do you folks think might be a potential downside to preventing consumers from having access to repair materials, guidelines, white papers, anything that might help source parts or products, and then utilizing copyright law and trademark law to prevent third-party repair shops from importing parts? Off the top of my head, and I think this is one of the major pillars of Apple's argument, I do believe you could make the argument that allowing third-party repair and consumer repair means that there will be a percentage of consumers who get a lower quality repair or service. They're not authorized to a shop that's not authorized to properly support that product, and that the company could maybe make a good faith argument that if consumers who are not qualified or experienced enough to repair their own gadgets are trying to crack open these things, it could lead to further damage, further issues with warranty, more time spent at Genius bars, which might drive up operation costs. I do feel you could make that argument, but I feel like that argument has been made to such an extreme now that the pendulum needs to swing back, and we need to have some sort of corrective action in the market for what we should have access to and what we should be allowed to own in terms of purchasing a gadget. Because it's starting to feel like kind of like video gaming, right? Like, you don't really own this game. You have purchased a license to play this game in the way that we are allowing you to play this game. You don't really own your iPhone. You have purchased a license to operate an iPhone, and it's going to cost you this much to lease it over this period of time, and then you're going to give it back to us because you're going to want to trade it in and get cash back so that you can purchase the next iPhone. Like, it's a permanent lease. It's not really you own this gadget. This gadget kind of owns you. From BVZXA3, this only really applies to Apple. I have repaired hundreds of Samsung, LG phones since 2014 using parts from Amazon, eBay, and maybe 5% had bad parts. Well, especially for sourcing parts, because I think Apple has been the most aggressive at punishing the consumer for repair parts. When you replace a screen, and even if that screen came from another iPhone, because they didn't validate that part to operate in that iPhone, it bricks the phone. And when things like that happen, where you actually damage the consumer experience to punish them for straying from the Genius ecosystem, then I feel like you've gone too far. Then I feel that's become predatory. But no, it's also to say, like, I don't know that Samsung has been so repair friendly with their most recent designs and builds. It's why I miss. I use it on almost every single video I produce. Now it's become my teleprompter phone. This is ridiculous that I have too many phones. But my Note 4. Trisha Hirschberger cracked the camera on her Note 4. I was with her when she cracked the camera, and then I saw how she repaired the camera herself a week later. All she had to do was peel off the backplate, buy a camera module off of eBay, pop it in there, good to go. Their most recent designs, going with glass backs and sealed up and water resistance, blah, 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 makes that kind of repair so much more difficult to do for the average consumer. Like, just while I'm here on this live stream on this amazing phone, one of the most beautiful and most practical phone designs of all time, I peel this off and I can get to the battery, and I can get to the SIM card tray and the SD card slot, and then there are all these little screws. And there's just a piece of plastic, and I pop off this piece of plastic, and I'm into the phone, and I can do anything that I want to fix it or repair it. If I were really super awesome tech savvy, I wonder if there's anyone out there that ever did, like, memory module upgrades for Samsung phones back in the day. That would have been awesome. All right, drink some more water here. Let's see. From Yolanda Rowe, that's still a consumer's choice. I could save money, or I could need to replace the kit I screwed up. I mean, because I feel like there are enough people out there that don't have access to immediate good repair or service, have to send things in. Like, it makes sense to me that there are enough people out there that would want to try and do this themselves. But I also would hope that this adds to the conversation that maybe our products aren't being built with the consumer's best interests in mind. Oh yeah, people and a couple people mentioning the T2 chip. Apple again doubling down on a notion of security, which also seems to stand directly in the face of unauthorized repair, either from third-party repair shops or from consumers. Yeah, I I feel like there's a lot of FUD there too. You've got the T2 chip, which puts a crimp on this. It was the home button back on older iPhones if you actually had to replace the physical home button, not the sensor home button. But the part of the phone that was most likely to fail if it wasn't properly replaced would also brick your phone. And then also just trying to scare you off with things like, oh, well, if you open up the case, you're going to lose your water resistance. Well, if it's a choice between an operational phone without water resistance or a non-operational phone that is still water resistant, what choice would you make? Losing water resistance is a small bummer, but it's not a complete deal breaker to having your gadget work. From Cheryl, the Note 4, the Galaxy S5 designs are pretty cool as industrial design. The backplate on the Galaxy S5 is still one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my entire life. But my mom still refuses to give up her Galaxy S5. Part of it was I think she was looking at shopping a new phone last year, but my dad lost his phone and then they had to replace it, and she was like, well, now I don't want to spend even more money on another phone, so I guess I'll just have to keep my Galaxy S5. And I think she's kind of now wearing it like a badge of honor. Like, she's got it in this really pretty bumper floral case. It's water resistant. I can take out the battery. I can put in the memory card whenever I want. It's got a fingerprint scanner. It's got everything I need. I just wish it had a slightly better camera. She's being really funny about it, but I think she's also, she's kind of fronting it now. Like, she's proud of keeping her older phone running for so long. The Galaxy S10's coming out, but mine's an S5. It's pretty awesome. My folks are fun. I like my folks. All right. Moomin74. I would kill for something like this, especially also from companies like Motorola. Samsung and LG should do a classic range where they reboot their old designs, but with modern chipsets, GPU, and software. LG G2 2019 edition. I just reorganized my shelf of old phones, and I held my LG G2 again for the first time in months, and it's just so pretty. And same thing, I picked up my Moto X2 with a leather back and a white face and red button accents, and it's just so pretty. If only that Motorola logo was a fingerprint scanner and the camera didn't have garbage software, it would still be a fine daily driver today. It's so good. The oxblood, the mauve leather back for the LG G4, the wood panel and bamboo options, the carbon fiber and Kevlar options. There are so many companies that have made so many amazingly beautiful phones that stand out, that are different than this metal and glass era that we're in now, which is dumb and unpractical. And just picking up my Note 4, what I wouldn't give for current software for that phone, or a rebuild of that exact same phone, form factor, build, everything, but just putting in modern internals. I just want so bad to have that. The Waris Amir, the Samsung Galaxy Alpha, was like a little mini Note before they went off with like the glass, the Galaxy S6 build, the Note 5 build. The Alpha was like a mini Note. It had those really hard-edged metal chamfered edges, the grippy material back. That was my dad's phone for years. Like, my mom wouldn't give up her Galaxy S5. He destroyed his Galaxy Alpha, but he loved that little phone. It was so cool. I loved that phone. From Cheryl, we are getting a new Razr. Moto Razr foldable phone. That'll be fun, right, guys? Because you all wanted your screens to bend. That's what the kids are saying is, screens don't bend, I don't spend. Is what they're saying these days. The youth, those post millennials, I guess. Moving right along. Got a pair of Facebook stories here. Let's talk about some Facebook. Because why not? So someone please explain this to me, because I think this is a terrible move for people who use these services. I see no redeeming value whatsoever, and it's probably going to encourage me to use these products even less than I am already currently not using these products very much. And that is, Mark Zuckerberg plans to integrate WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger. Article by Mike Isaac at the New York Times. Excuse me. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, plans to integrate the social network's messaging services, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger, asserting his control over the company's sprawling divisions at a time when its business has been battered by scandal. The services will continue to operate as standalone apps, but their underlying technical infrastructure will be unified, said 4 people involved in the effort. That will bring together 3 of the world's largest messaging networks, which between them have more than 2.6 billion users, allowing people to communicate across platforms for the first time. This, to me, sounds like the worst. I do not want this. I already have a hard enough time filtering out Facebook Messenger spam and shenanigans and notifications from my daily life. I don't have the actual first-party Facebook apps installed on any of my personal daily driver phones. I still go through a dumb portal app like Friendly to keep up with what little Facebook I consume on at this day and age. Instagram, going away from a chronological feed, has gutted how I use Instagram. I just am not interested in seeing what people posted 3 days ago on Instagram. And for a direct messaging service, I'm walking back from that. Mixing Facebook messaging, WhatsApp messaging, and Instagram messaging all into one. So like if someone now IMs me from Facebook and it shows up in my Instagram feed because those things are linked, and we all know how Facebook is going to do this. They're going to do this by turning it on for everybody first, and then you have to make a choice on whether or not you want to opt out of it, is going to chap my ass something fierce. I hate this. I do not like it. And this is an odd time to be linking in consumers' minds these services. Like general consumers, not people who sit here and listen to podcasts like this. I don't think they always understand the tangled relationships with Facebook and other services, right? Like WhatsApp is WhatsApp and Instagram is Instagram and Facebook is Facebook. With Facebook drawing so much heat and creating such a negative consumer sentiment around it, why would you now decide to make a bigger, brighter, more public link between Facebook and WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram? Now is the wrong time to sour the waters for those other services by pushing the FB logo in people's faces on stuff like this. It's so dumb. I don't get it at all. But this is also like it's frustrating because I can't point to great solutions for messaging and on other platforms. I was talking about my mom. I was having a conversation with my mom over the weekend because she likes to video chat with my daughter about getting her to stop using Hangouts. She's still on Hangouts, and that's another epic dumpster fire of developer mess going on at Google right now. So we're trying to chat out. You have a Galaxy S5. What can we use to video chat with my daughter? Maybe it's time to switch over to. She also has an iPad. Maybe we should just FaceTime. I don't know. But we're talking about Skype and Google Messenger. Like what do we move to? So what we definitely will not be moving to is something like WhatsApp if this is going to be the next stage, the next era of Facebook software. I don't get it. This is such a dumb idea. This is such bad timing on their part. And it also serves to just harm the consumer experience as far as I'm concerned. It's like forcing
It's like if Google had some kind of social network which was actually building a little popularity, and they decided to inflate their numbers by stapling YouTube comments into their social network, right? No one would be dumb enough to do something like that. So Facebook is obviously gonna backtrack from this and figure out that this is the worst idea in the history of their messaging strategy. I have to believe someone at Facebook will figure out that this is a bad idea. Ronald Collins, long live Telegram. Ronald Sims, this is bad for everybody. From Marvin C, but a combined technology, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp is going to lose me for Instagram and WhatsApp. Been off Facebook for a few years already. Well, I mean, that's the thing is I can sit here and say, oh, I don't install Facebook on my phones. Well, Facebook still knows everything I do because I installed Instagram. So again, they've already got Trojan horse services. I don't understand why they feel they need to link it now. Now is not the right time to attack Troy with your Trojan horse. Now is the right time to stay under the radar. Because from the Sentinel 909, Facebook has a lot of bad press. It's a bad business move to connect them to a successful Instagram and WhatsApp. That's what I'm saying. It drives me crazy. Let's see. From Cheryl, the bad idea realization will only happen after they roll out the first major bug is discovered the week it goes live. Sentinel 909, my grandpa uses Skype to talk to my mom out of the country, and it's a buggy, memory guzzling mess. Skype is weird. When they revised the first major revision for Skype was actually kind of nice. They fixed a lot of problems. They cleaned up the interface. It was more messenger friendly. But then you're right. Like we have these hills and valleys where they do something really good, and then literally in the next update they completely break it. So I'm hoping that Skype gets on its strategy for improving that too, because it'd be nice to have a fallback. Like I kind of look at Skype like Skype is that safe option that everyone can kind of use, you know, like I don't have to explain it to people too much, and it's a name that people recognize, and I don't have to convince people to go on it. You probably already have an account that's been dormant for years, but in the event that the thing we want to use doesn't work or something else happens, you can kind of fall back on Skype. It's kind of the last gasp, you know. International calling was like a big deal. Oh, I could Skype. I could video call with people. Oh, this is amazing. We'll have to see. From Vincent, do you use Google Voice? I do use Google Voice. My mom does not use Google Voice. But I think a part of that is also she wants video chat. She wants to see my daughter, not just talk to my daughter. She just call me if she wanted to just talk to my daughter. She wants to see my daughter run around my living room like a Tasmanian devil and then laugh because it's like her granddaughter is the ultimate revenge for my childhood, running her around like crazy. Because that's what parents do. So it's pretty great. Yolanda Rowe, AIM or MSN? Just got to get some AOL action in here. You've got mail. Let's move on. There's one other quick Facebook story. The reason why, this isn't really a story worth talking about. This is from Gizmodo. The only reason why is because I have to highlight this immediately after the last story that we just talked about, right? Facebook making a potentially disastrous business decision with three of their crown jewel products: Facebook Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp. And this article comes out almost immediately after Mark Zuckerberg thinks you don't trust Facebook because you don't understand it. From Katie Keck. That's a great headline. I think we can all safely agree that last year was not great for Facebook. User trust plummeted to record lows as the company faced scandal after scandal. At this point, there are countless reasons users can and even should be wary of Facebook. And yet, On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal published a 1,000-word screed by Mark Zuckerberg about the company's data collecting practices titled The Facts About Facebook. In it, Zuckerberg makes noise about the company being about people and insists, as he has been for the majority of his company's 15-year history, that we should trust it. From the article, sometimes this means people assume we do things that we don't do. For example, we don't sell people's data, even though it's often reported that we do. In fact, selling people's information to advertisers would be counter to our business interests because it would reduce the unique value of our service to advertisers. We have a strong incentive to protect people's information from being accessed by anyone. My favorite part of this is her description of, in it, Zuckerberg makes noise about the company being about people. Facebook's not about evil robots, for I am a person too. The Sentinel 909, we don't understand you, Zuck, because we are not xenobiologists. Oh, man. Whew. Oh, Zuckerberg. We don't sell consumer data because that would harm our business in leveraging consumer data for advertisers and businesses who want your consumer data. Yolanda Rowe, how many Pinocchios for Zuck's diatribe? I have not read all 1,000 words. And unlike me sitting through the Google testimony before Congress, which was a 3-hour C-SPAN video, I'm not going to read 1,000 words from Mark Zuckerberg full of doublespeak like that. I have zero respect for that being the reply from Facebook if it's playing fast and loose with definitions of, well, we don't sell your data, but we leverage it in a synergistic, proactive campaign of empowering advertisers and manufacturers to better implement policy in data acquisition. When major scandals of theirs were offering up Facebook plugins and Facebook services to companies that then went and extracted user information. It arose by any other name, right? You didn't sell our data. You just made a lot of money off of companies acquiring our data. I don't see the fundamental difference there. Sherrill, so is the theory that Zuck is a lizard person confirmed or at least made less vague? I don't think Zuckerberg's a lizard person. I always thought he was more of an android, right? If he just had a slightly more coppery tone to his skin, he would be like Data and Lore's inept younger brother, right? Yeah, that's kind of how I always felt about Zuck, especially with this new haircut. This close cropped, maybe I might consider a run in politics in the future Zuckerberg look. That's kind of, he always seemed to me to be stiff and robotic, not he's wearing an Edgar suit or something like that. From BVZXA3, I will not sell your data, sell your data. From Ronald Collins, I have one on IG, but he hasn't responded to my message yet. I'm gonna mute all of this now. I'm gonna shut it all down. No more instant messaging on any Facebook-owned platform. Marvin C. We don't sell your data. We just make data breaches more accessible to people for a price. From DeMarcio Fowler, I think it's time to introduce the concept of mini monopolies. Google, Apple, and Facebook control more data than governments and have less ways to censure. This is definitely something that I think is worthy of more conversation. And I would add Amazon to that list too. We've created these digital power brokers that have enormous influence over policy, over the conversation of the future of the internet, are becoming synonymous with the internet for a lot of people around the world. And I think it's not that I want to, break them up. And, I don't think you can do the regulatory breakups that we used to do with the oil barons, back in the day, or the steel barons. I don't think it can be the same. But I think we do need to have some kind of market correction, regulatory oversight, and some type of check and balance in place, because this is getting ridiculous. What they have access to and what they control with very little oversight, and I have to lay the blame at the feet of politicians that are woefully undereducated about how these companies do business. I mean, every single, someone sits before Congress and they get grilled by congressional members, and you're like, not really. A handful of our elected representatives actually seem to understand how these platforms might operate. But again, we're talking about very, very shallow knowledge as to how their policy might affect these mega corporations in the digital space. From Marcel Clappert, companies have two options: making money with hardware, like Apple, or by collecting user data, like Google. I don't want to let Apple off the hook here, because Apple makes a ton of money, billions of dollars a year, by Google paying them to make Google the default search engine on iPhones, right? So Apple loves to talk about how their OS is so secure, but they have no problem putting services on your phone, building services natively into the experience that they profit from, that then also give up your data. So your iPhone is super secure so long as you don't use anything on it. Because as soon as you have Facebook on that phone, your iPhone's not secure. As soon as you're using Google on your phone's not any more secure. And Apple does profit from your behavior, your Google behavior on the iPhone, because they have a licensing agreement with Google to make that cash. So again, right now everything is so messy and tangled up and ugly and gross that we need to sort all of that stuff out more. And I think I just froze again. Let's say cam 3. Nope. 2 seconds. We're going to fix it. Got a couple more news stories. Discard. Delete. Remove. Yes. Delete. The thing that bothers me is that this is super inconsistent, right? All right, let me try cam 3. There we go. And then I think I need to flip it again. And hit OK. And maximize. Oh, wait, nope, move it around. Come on, OBS. And flip it and reverse it. There we go. Now we're back. Let me take another drink of water. Frozen 2 SGG edition. That's awesome. What I need to do is come up with like a macro. Like, I've got this gaming keyboard. I should just like program. Every time my video freezes, I push one button and it just does all this stuff and brings it back. That would be awesome. So, because we were having that conversation about regulatory oversight, let's have some more depressing news about how our government is letting us down in providing some kind of consumer protection or regulatory oversight. Here, let me get this queued up here. And this is from The Register, theregister.co.uk. FCC accused of colluding with big cable to game 5G legal challenge. And this isn't just someone accusing the FCC like me saying, oh, there's collusion. Which, I did not actually make that claim, so don't come after me for slander, libel. I can never remember which is which. This is actually someone pretty high up in government. From the article at The Register, written by Kieran McCarthy, U.S. telecoms regulator, the FCC, has been accused of colluding with companies it is supposed to oversee in order to protect a controversial decision over new 5G networks. Chair of the House Commerce, I think that's supposed to be House Commerce Committee, not Chair of the House Commerce Chair, Frank Pallone,
I sent a letter to FCC Chair Ajit Pai asking for copies of communications between the FCC and the big telcos regarding legal challenges to the regulator's 5G order, which forces local governments to charge a flat fee for installing new base stations. This is from the letter, and they have a link to the full PDF, but I'm not going to read all of that here. It has come to our attention that certain individuals at the FCC may have urged companies to challenge the order the Commission adopted in order to game the judicial lottery procedure and intimated the agency would look unfavorably towards entities that were not helpful. In effect, the letter alleges that FCC staff, almost certainly from Pai's office, put pressure on the big telcos to challenge an order that is designed to benefit them as a way of gaming the judicial system so the case didn't end up in a court likely to overturn it. The article goes on to say, as crazy as this sounds, and you're like, no, this doesn't sound crazy at all. When the head of the FCC is on a mission to gut every single regulatory protection that the FCC is supposed to be in charge of, is disrupting rules that have been in place for over 40 years regarding the ownership of telecommunications outlets and news agencies, and is working to undermine everything that the government might have some kind of regulatory stake in. No, this doesn't seem outlandish at all, which is what makes it so sad. It makes it so funny because you have to laugh to keep from crying. And it's all just wrapped up in this fervor. I don't understand why this 5G conversation has become so critical to the future of our infrastructure and our internet. There's probably about 30% of our population that doesn't even have reliable 4G, is probably still struggling with 3G style connections in more rural areas of the country. And they're actively trying to subvert and undermine any type of telecommunications policy to the benefit of mega corporations again, before we have this infrastructure in place. Actually, that kind of makes a lot of sense why they're being so fervent about this. And, China is scary, blah, 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 blah. Because they're basically just greasing palms at telecom companies. This is where I would definitely be in favor of some kind of policy where, let's say you worked at an agency that was in charge of regulation, or let's say you're an elected official. Let's say you're a congressman or a senator, that you are barred from working at lobbyists for, I don't know, let's put a number on it. Let's say 20 years. So as soon as you're out of government, you cannot work at a think tank or a lobbyist or directly in the purview of the market that you were regulating for 20 years. So like Ajit Pai wants to be head of the FCC. Great. He cannot, as soon as he's out of the FCC, he cannot work with telecoms again for 20 years. I feel like that would be fair. Then you actually have people that are interested in sort of the public side of this conversation, not just, I broke a whole bunch of stuff to the benefit of Comcast, and now I get to go and get a cushy job at Comcast with my giant oversized Reese's Pieces mug. So you just want to yell in his face so bad and do other things too, which I probably shouldn't say on a public feed because it's sad. This is really frustrating. I'm really frustrated by this kind of news. From Awang, 4G. Yeah, we're having that. We talked about this. We talked about it last week, right? AT&T faking 5G and then doubling down on their duplicity. We're really happy we've lied about 5G and we're getting in our competition's heads. BS. But again, we would need some kind of agency that regulated the communications area of the United States to call out companies that outright lie about what their networks are capable of. I don't know, some kind of like Federal Communications Commission or something like that would be great. From Marcel Clapper, in Germany, big companies want their own 5G frequencies, no joke. Well, that's exactly what happened. Again, you look at the network and band support on every carrier here in the United States. That's what we've had. It's why we've been able to cool any kind of competition.
So if you buy your phone, you don't really own your phone. If you owned your phone, you would you would be able to buy a phone and take it to any carrier or network that you wanted to do business with, kind of like Wi-Fi. But you can't. Even today, it's still difficult to get proper support for all bands in one phone because AT&T doesn't want to sell you a phone that you could then go and take to Verizon, and Verizon doesn't want to whitelist a phone for their network that you could then go and take to T-Mobile. Like, we've been locking that down, and that's why the carrier-consumer relationship is as sort of insidious as it is here in the United States. From BVZ XA3, well, they already got rid of most 2G networks and they want to kill 3G as well. Our telecom networks are too broken up to be effective. We are still far behind smaller countries as far as our speeds. Not only far behind, but we're also paying way more than a lot of other countries that have been able to unify and have better regulations in place, right? CDMA never took off around the rest of the world because most other countries' governments said, hey, that's dumb. Why do you have a completely different competing connection standard from the rest of the world? No, we're not going to let you do business that way here in our country. And that's what should have happened in the United States. All right. 2 quick stories. We're almost through this. We're at 90 minutes. I'm going to finish this podcast in under 2 hours. We're going to do it. This is actually, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I feel like Ars Technica, the article that I'm going to just sort of share, as soon as the show notes are up and you can click on links, just read the article. But I do want to bring it up and I do want to talk about it because, again, in terms of politics, not only do we not have good regulators in place, we have bad actors that have sort of captured these regulatory agencies for the benefit of the companies that they're supposed to be regulating. We are also starting to crawl out of a government shutdown, which meant that even with bad actors in a lot of these security positions, we didn't even have staff to keep these positions operating. And that resulted in multiple U.S. government domains hit in serious denial of service hijacking wave. This is from Dan Gooden. Ars Technica, amid a partial shutdown, DHS gives admins 10 business days to lock down their DNS. The Department of Homeland Security has issued an emergency directive ordering administrators of most federal agencies to protect their internet domains against a rash of attacks that have hit executive branch websites and email servers in recent weeks. Excuse me. The DHS Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, issued the directive on Tuesday, 12 days after security firm FireEye warned of an unprecedented wave of ongoing attacks that altered the domain name system records belonging to telecoms, ISPs, and government agencies. DNS servers act as directories that allow one computer to find other computers on the internet. By tampering with these records, attackers can potentially intercept passwords, emails, and other sensitive communications. Quote, CISA is aware of multiple executive branch agency domains that were impacted by the tampering campaign and has notified the agencies that maintain them. CISA Director Christopher C. Krebs wrote in Wednesday's emergency directive. He continued. So go read at least through this part. You're talking about 3 major bullet points about DNS attacks, server records, and also what values and domain names and user data can be intercepted by these things. And again, we have elected officials in a government woefully ill-equipped to handle this when they're staffed, let alone when we're in the middle of a government shutdown. I'm actually kind of surprised that we didn't face even more severe cyber attacks during this government shutdown. We had government websites that were in danger of actually expiring and being pulled off of the internet because of the infrastructure surrounding the government shutdown, impacting certain tiers of government employees from not being able to work. So this is super scary, actually, especially for executive branch websites. So some of these attacks actually being targeted at the presidency of the United States of America. That's like a declaration of cyber war against the United States. And again, our news media is so inept that this got kind of like a little blip here, a little blip there. Like someone linked to a couple articles, NBC sort of like shrugged. This is actually kind of a big deal in safeguarding the safety of American citizens in the United States government. I feel like the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency under the umbrella of the DHS should probably be a bigger deal than it currently is. All right. One last little story, and this is something we can kind of share some thoughts about, because I don't know why, but my nose has gotten really congested. I'm like super stuffed up. I don't want to keep like sniffling in front of my microphone. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna turn this down, and then I'm gonna come back. Muting my mic. 1 sec. I just realized that looked like I just snorted a line of cocaine, and I did not do that. Okay. This actually came to me by way of Fat Produce, Mr. Andrew Wallace, my good friend and co-host on the Geek Book Club podcast, which is going to be coming back soon. We just need to set down a day to do our podcast recording, talking about an amazing book covering the Civil War. But he sent me this link, and it's a Reddit article. There are people on r/Android just sort of sharing their experiences and trying to do a little research as to the current state of Android updates. Now, if you own an Android phone, I think many of us would agree with the sentiment, the feeling that the situation for updates really hasn't gotten better. That the likelihood that you buy a phone, you keep it for a couple years, and that along the way you get reasonable updates quickly, or at least efficiently, and that you keep pace with the market, doesn't really hold true. So this is posted by user The Coding Dude. This is actually posted last week. So I mean, after we were done with last week's podcast, this popped up. But The Coding Dude collects some really interesting information. So to set the scene, in 2015 we had Marshmallow. 2016 we got Nougat. 2017 we got Oreo. In 2018 we got Pie. Android P. We're talking about Android Q for 2019. He then also references the number of phones. In 2016, there were 541 Android phones released. 2017, 459. 2018, 410. We're also seeing a very clear trend that manufacturers are kind of giving up on phones. The smartphone market is mature and plateaued, and this is not an exciting growth opportunity for people to try and crack into. So phones released in 2016, Marshmallow, which is the 2015 operating system, accounted for almost 70% of the phones released in 2016. The two different builds of Nougat accounted for roughly 23% of those phones, making up the grand total. And he also breaks down which phones released in 2016 got Oreo and got Pie. By the time we get to Pie, two phones released in 2016 have gotten updates to the newest build of Android. That was 2 years ago. We should have a reasonable expectation that an operating system released 2 years after that phone comes out should still have access to that kind of an update. Excuse me. He does the same thing breaking down phones released in 2017. Talking out of the phones released in 2017, remember the operating system that came out in 2017 was Oreo. How many of them came out with Marshmallow? How many of them made it to Nougat? How many of them actually made it to Oreo? And then how many of them actually made it to Pie? And that does a little bit better. 18 phones released in 2017 are currently running Android Pie. So already checking out numbers for 2018, we see, again, a very similar breakup between the number of phones that came out with Marshmallow to Nougat to Oreo to Pie and a few more. We start cracking into almost 15% of phones released in 2018 are currently running the newest build of Android. So what have been your experiences? Because of the phones that I got last year, I want to say it was Huawei and OnePlus. So 2 Chinese manufacturers are operating on Pi. We've got like a OnePlus 6T and a Huawei Mate. That's kind of where we're at. My LGs, the LGs that I love, they're on Oreo. I don't put a lot of faith in LG software updates. I like LG because of their AV hardware. Android is a mess. Android is in not great shape. I'd like to see some other data on things like security updates and bug fixes and patches too, but this kind of plays into, the right to repair. Is it worth spending money on and investing to repair long-term a phone which is maybe going to get 1 year of good software support and then is going to be abandoned by the manufacturer? Is it even worth trying to keep that phone running for longer periods of time if you might be left in a position where you're on outdated security patches or you have other bugs that are affecting your ability to use that phone? This to me is Apple's version of planned obsolescence. Often is hardware and battery, right? They're going to encourage you to get a new phone by turning on your battery throttling when your iPhone 10 is just a little bit more than a year old. Oh man, your phone's slowing down, but we're doing it to help you. We're doing it to help your battery life because we couldn't put in a bigger battery. We could have, but then you wouldn't want to buy a new phone as fast. Well, the Android flip side to this is, well, we're Samsung, so man, if you want the newest update and the newest software and all that stuff, you should buy the new phone because that new phone is going to get the software sooner than the older phones do. And after that, it'll be a couple more months, and then maybe eventually you'll see an update and a couple of patches. If you're on LG, you probably just never expect an update ever. It becomes a pleasant surprise when you even get a security fix. This is like, if you want to be current, you want to be protected, you want to be safe, man, you gotta flip that phone faster so that you're on the newer stuff. And I don't really feel where any of Google's more recent initiatives have taken that bull by the horns in any significant fashion. From Nougat to Oreo, we were talking about Project Trouble. Oh, this is going to make it so much easier for companies to update their phones. They have very little incentive to encourage you to keep your purchase longer. They want you to flip that phone aggressively. So the tools have gotten better, but that doesn't mean they're going to use them. There's no social contract between you and a manufacturer stating what kind of updates that you should really get. We can try and hold manufacturers accountable, and we can say like, oh, well, vote with your wallet. But outside of a Pixel and pretty good software support on a phone like a OnePlus, that cuts out a huge swath of what makes Android interesting and enticing is, the variety of different manufacturers and hardware and the different features that you might appreciate. So if you care about software, you've got to make sacrifices for hardware, or if you care about hardware, you've got to make sacrifices for software. And this to me is becoming untenable. Again, like I was saying before about Apple, so much human labor, so many rare earth elements, so much, unrecoverable material. The act of recycling some of this stuff can be super toxic. Shipping it contributes to carbon. We have so many things that go into making one of these things, and the manufacturers most responsible for selling them to us seem to be pretty hell-bent on making them as little fun to use after a year as they can so that we'll want to flip them sooner. And I think that's a bad way to do business. Oh, from Moomin74, my LG G5 just got updated to Oreo. All right, that's not bad. Steve DeRoche, Korean LG G7 got part of the Pi, but we're still waiting for it outside of Korea. Oh, yeah. So there were actually a couple Korean G7 updates that my G7 never got. I never got the 60 frame per second video recording mode for the G7, and that makes me crazy cranky. Aditya Anil, I had Oreo 8.1 till my 6P boot looped. Yeah, I got the G7 running Oreo, stuck on Oreo. I'm not complaining. Have been getting monthly updates, not regularly, but once a month for sure. That's pretty good. My V40, what is my V40 stuck at? Let's see. Let's do just a little quick accounting because I've got a couple phones on around me right now. So system, about phone, software info. Okay, so my V40's not too bad. Android 8.1 with the November security update. So that's actually pretty close for an LG. I'm 2 months off the pulse, but let me just see if there's a software update. Check now. Checking. I'm on the current software. Okay, so now I want to see what else do I have on. I've got the Razer phone on. Let's my guess would be that the Razer is probably even further behind. So let's see. I'm on 8.1, about phone. October, the October security patch on the Razer. That's not super great. And are any of my OnePluses on? Let me boot up a OnePlus and then see what my Huawei Mate 20 is on. System, about phone. My Mate 20 is also on the October security patch. Actually, right now, even though it's not on Pi, it's still on Oreo. My V40 might be my most up-to-date phone. I might have to take it back. I might have to eat some of my words about LG software support. Let me just see if there's an EMUI update for. Nope, software is up to date, and EMUI is currently on October. And last but not least, my OnePlus 6T in Thunder Purple. System updates, check for updates. System is up to date, and then I want to see about phone. They always change this up. I wish they wouldn't. Oxygen OS. Oh, okay. First place, OnePlus 6T, running Pi, December security patch. Second place, very surprising to me in terms of security updates, this is LG V40. My V40 is on November, but currently the only phone in my collection that's up to date. I mean, aside from my iPhone, is my OnePlus 6T. There you go. I'm very surprised by that informal sampling of phones around me. That's pretty silly. Renato Laporte, November. My mom's S8 is running the January update already. Mm-hmm. Well, Renato Laporte, your mom's just better than everybody, okay? All right? Take a chill pill. Your mom's awesome. Everyone loves your mom. My Honor View 10 just got January update from Jim Cleveland. Oh, I should totally break out my Honor. See where my Honor's at. Oh, it's way over there. I can't reach it. A bunch of people talking about like LTE bands on Sprint. I know T-Mobile just put out their big announcement that Sprint and T-Mobile are working together on the future of 5G. And I read through it and I kind of just, my eyes glazed over because I just don't care. I really just don't care until gigabit LTE is in more areas that actually affect the middle of this country. Let's see. Let's get this back up here. Steve DeRoche, my Canadian G7, has the December patch. Very nice for you. And the Sentinel 909, my OnePlus 5T, just got updated, and it's actually quite useful. Very nice for you too. All right, folks. Unless there's any other pressing business, any other concerns that you guys want to talk about, I think it's time to kind of start wrapping this thing up. I don't know. I don't know what changes the situation. I don't know what moves the needle. This is something we've been complaining about since Ice Cream Sandwich, is spending a lot of money on a product and expecting some kind of relationship with the manufacturer, and increasingly being shown that that updates, that patches, that the support that we're paying them for, we're paying for this built into the cost of the product, isn't really being delivered in the way that I think a lot of companies have promised us that they would take care of these types of situations. So I don't know. I don't know what fixes that. I don't know what changes that. Because, again, voting with your wallet is a great in theory, great ideology. It doesn't always play out or pan out in the way that I think would be most helpful to consumers. Oh, Sharil Abdul Rahman, a quick comment on the portless phones, as in how clever or stupid the idea is. I am not a fan of the completely sealed no port phone. I think they're dumb. I want products that are actually going to expand my usage, not limit me in catastrophic ways for things like charging. I think that is a horrible, terrible, no good idea. And I like the flexibility of having a USB port on a phone that can also be used for other things too. I wish there was more traction on USB-C accessories for phones. Like I've got a little 360 camera over there. Pop it into a USB port. Your phone becomes a 360-degree action camera. Stuff like that works really, really well. And I've been adding to that with like audio production kit, the Samsung Go Mic Mobile. Plug it into a USB-C port, you've got an amazing little podcasting rig. And some camera apps can kind of work with it too, like Open Camera. But again, Android is too stupid. That's not a problem with the Samsung. I want to add wireless lavs for $200 and plug it into a USB port, get super high quality audio recording, be able to mix that audio and produce something directly from my phone. That's awesome. I really like on the Mate being able to plug an HDMI jack into my phone so that then I can connect this to a TV or a monitor and have a full computer style setup. We can't have that if we're trying to do everything with Qi charging, which is going to cook your battery faster over time, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It is a frustrating turn of events if that's where the market goes. I think it's interesting that two manufacturers beat Apple to the obvious end game where Apple really wants to take the iPhone is to a completely sealed, completely unbroken surface design. But I think it's a stupid design. I think all screen designs are stupid. I think having some bezels are practical. Practical, and they improve the interaction and the tactile operation of that gadget. But we want something pretty, and oh my gosh, it's totally immersive. As I hold my phone up, how immersive it is to have more screen. That's dumb. That is so dumb and childish and dumb. So, I mean, kudos from a design perspective and kudos from a manufacturing perspective, but I'm not impressed. I'm not excited about it. And I'll be real cranky when I have to start reviewing devices that are built that way. Because it breaks everything that we've got for no benefit and only introduces more complication for how you use your gadget. Why? And anyone out there who's really excited about it, why? Why are you excited about this? Does this look like progress? Because you know what looks like progress to me is I've got a really awesome little Huawei MateBook back there, but I've got a Huawei Mate phone which could probably drive a laptop clamshell style computing experience for a huge swath of the population. Like you could just give me a laptop frame powered by this phone, and a ton of people around the world would be able to get most, if not all of their work done legit the way that this hardware has gone out, right? So I should be taking care of this phone, building out accessories for this phone, finding ways to run this phone longer. Like operating a phone for the same amount of time that we might keep a laptop around. Not, well, now we've got it all sealed up. So you've got to buy different chargers and you've got to buy wireless headphones and you've got to make sure that you've got this type of an adapter for your TV if you want to link it and connect it, and everything is broken. So what do you do for support? You know, I know that's not like a huge consideration for a lot of consumers out there, but it just makes the phone even more disposable. You take it in to like get a warranty service, or you return it to the manufacturer, and they're just going to send you a refurb. They're not going to sit there and try and fix a phone that they can't even plug into with diagnostic equipment. It just becomes more e-waste. This is really disgusting, and it's a trend that drives me crazy. Again, standing in stark contrast to the stories we talked about, talking about things like right to repair. This to me becomes sort of an anti-consumer move to encourage product upgrades on a faster timetable, try and impress you with some notion of design and aesthetic, but it absolutely stands in the way of the practical considerations of operating that device. And that to me is a no-go. From Paco Street, joined the podcast late. Any new tidbits for collaboration with TK or other YouTubers? Paco, thank you. There is no new information on collaborations, but I asked you guys to kick my ass about trying to work out something with TK. I will be reaching out to TK this week just to try and get something on the calendar, because I have not seen that man in too long, and I want to hang out with my friend. And what better way to hang out with my friend than actually make some fun YouTube content? So I will be reaching out to him. Thank you for keeping me on point there. Everyone should be harassing me on the daily about trying to keep up some kind of collaboration with TK Bay, because TK Bay is Bay. People talking about the BlackBerry Priv. Goran Petrovic, my opinion, new smartphones are totally iterative, nothing important changes. Price is growing, sales will flop even further. What do we need? Graphene batteries. What will impress you? What will impress me is actually true ecosystem. Like I said, I think there is a good faith argument to be had that the phone in your pocket could probably replace the laptop that you also have to use. I don't see any reason why it couldn't. I write scripts, I shoot video, I edit, render, produce 4K video. I have a pretty reasonable suite of nice mobile services that cover a huge chunk of getting that stuff done. And as soon as you actually drive the market towards embracing mobile chipsets for daily productivity, the software will get better. The software will improve dramatically. I think it's kind of a tragedy that we've had the Moto Z series with their dock, which would have been a perfect implementation of a clamshell style old school Motorola Atrix lap dock. We have Samsung and DeX. We have Huawei with a desktop mode. These phones are totally capable of it. We're running Windows on ARM. There's no reason why. There's literally no reason why. A huge chunk of people who can get by with Chromebooks or using low power or MacBook Air style computers couldn't use their phone for the same thing, except for the lack of infrastructure to actually support that. That's what I want to see. Is I want to see those practical usage scenarios improve. And I think that would be sort of an exciting turn. Then you start incorporating other things too, like augmented reality. I think we need to get away from the phone being this on an island solo single experience and start blurring services and data over a wider variety of usage scenarios. BVZ XA3. They say the 10R bezels are too thick, but the battery is insane. Oh, the 10R bezels are not too thick. The 10R bezels are fine. They're actually very useful and very functional for how you adapt to using a screen that size. But I'll still take it back that the best iPhone is the iPhone SE. It's the best. The best design, the best aesthetic, the cleanest lines, no camera bulge, total free one-hand operation, and it's still a screamer of a phone in 2019. It feels no different in the hand than using my iPhone XS, and it's actually still faster at rendering 4K video than my iPhone XS. So for practical considerations, it is still a more powerful, faster, more streamlined, better made product than the $1,000 phone that I hate that I have. From Demir Frank, I'd love to have a YouTube buddy near me. Aw, Demir. I'm so bummed that my Newegg schedule was so crazy at CES this year, because it would have been fun to there were a few people. I didn't get to meet up with Max either, Max Blondano. But I wanted to kind of catch up with Demir a little bit more, and then see if we could have actually done something together. You always go in with these lofty ideas of like, let's do a collab video, and then you get there and the reality of CES is this crushing impressive force of trying to crank out news. And a super chat from Steve DeRoche. Here's a toonie to keep the lights on. Oh, thanks, man. That is actually something that's going to be changing up just a little bit on the channel. I mean, like I mentioned it before, I'm playing around with just a couple new little accents and some changes for the layout of the office, some changes to like some of the silly things like having a standing height adjustable desk. I will be doing a review on that, but you're going to start seeing some of those things more aggressively in some videos coming up, and also getting away from just all of my videos just being this layout and this setup of like, you know, talking to camera. I'm trying to maximize my space, because this is a very small office, but I'm trying to maximize my space and make everything look a little more visually interesting. I'm playing around with a few new microphones for getting away from my radio style setup and getting a little bit more mobile, a little bit more interactive with the videos. So I definitely appreciate all the support, guys and gals and tech fans of all sorts, because while the beginning of 2019 has been a little slow recovering and getting back up to speed, that hasn't just been me sitting around. This has been every year I kind of get that inspiration to change a few things. Last year it was like getting fairy lights in my bookcase back there. Now it's a bit more practical, and I think the changes will be a bit more substantial than just twinkly lights. But again, it takes a little while to implement that while you're still also trying to review products and stuff. So I appreciate all of you who have been along for the ride. Two quick little pieces of news, some final wrap up housekeeping. I'm going to be doing a State of the Patreon live stream Friday night, this coming Friday, probably around 8 or 9 Pacific. Just for people who are subscribed to the Patreon, we're going to have some conversations where we want to take some of this. I think I have an idea for where to take our next goals and perks. I had some problems with contests on Patreon, and I understand Patreon's perspective. Again, I feel like I maybe overstepped the legalities of how contests should operate. In good faith, I had good reasons, but from their perspective, and I understand where they're coming from, but that also meant that we have to change some of our perks and some of the structure. So I'll have, if you're a patron, if you're subscribed to the Patreon, if you're, contributing to the Patreon, we're going to have a patrons only live stream to kind of talk about where we're going to take things next and what kind of content we should be producing there. And then I also am going to start reaching out to folks who have been involved in this, because it's been a very quiet pet project of mine that I'd like to give a little bit more attention to in 2019, and that's the subreddit Glowing Rectangles. I really still believe that there is a valuable conversation to be had about trying to create a healthy link farm for smaller producers on Reddit, people who deserve a little bit more attention, YouTube creators or writers. It doesn't have to be video. It could be writers, bloggers, vloggers, people in the tech community that you feel deserve more attention, to avoid the hardcore echo chamber of the most popular media outlets always getting sort of the top spots on other subreddits, right? You can go to an Android-focused subreddit where everyone complains about coverage from certain outlets, but then those top outlets are the only articles that ever get upvoted because they already have high visibility and they're already popular. So I'm going to be putting out the call for some help on managing that, subscribing to that subreddit, trying to create something which does foster a little bit more interaction, because I don't want it to just be a place where someone farts out a link and then buggers off. I want to see more upvotes. I want to see more comments. I want to see more interaction. So I'll be asking for some help in what you all might think are good initiatives to tackle to get a higher quality interaction while trying to help build smaller channels that deserve more attention. And then also I'm going to see if I can also cook up a few like if this then that recipes just to keep more regular content populating on that subreddit. Like, maybe come up with a whitelist. You know, if there are bloggers, vloggers, or reviewers that you really like, maybe we could create like an RSS feed that automatically posts their content to that subreddit so that you always have new content to check out from people that you might not be getting their alerts or their notifications on major platforms like YouTube. So that's short story long, 2 major initiatives. Patreon live chat this Friday, state of the Patreon, and then also what to do about glowing rectangles and how to improve the quality of interaction on that subreddit, because I feel that's a cause I want to support. I just don't know how best to do it. So yeah, let's wrap this up, man. We are right at 2 hours. We did it. Okay, gonna end this now. As always, thank you so much for sticking with me through tech support problems. Again, live stream almost crashing a couple times, but we kept it up and running. We kept the quality of discussion up there. It's always embarrassing when your webcam freezes and then your live chat fails. But we did it. We finished another episode of the SGGQA podcast. And we'll be back next Monday talking about more news and more commentary and more, a little bit of that behind the scenes on what's going on with production and with videos and reviews. So I thank you so much for joining this live chat. Amazing as always. Thank you so much for digging into some difficult topics. Again, I know a lot of you don't always agree with me on some of the political stances that I take, but what's been so encouraging is the fact that we've been able to have some pretty challenging conversations in this live chat to continue that discussion, because that ultimate compromise is really the only way forward, is us being able to meet and share ideas and have a battle of ideas. But you have to have ideas, right? You can't just like, wow, I think you're dumb. So I really appreciate the quality of commentary and the quality of conversation. And if there are other people in your social circles that you feel would also appreciate jumping into these kinds of conversations, please help me out sharing this podcast with people that you think might enjoy it, reviewing it on whatever podcasting catching service that you might use, if it's iTunes or Google Play or Spotify. All of those little things help contribute to building better, nuanced, in-depth, long-form conversations, and that's where I feel the future of this commentary really lies. So I thank you for participating. I thank you for contributing. And you know where you can catch me throughout the rest of the week around the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Instagrams and the Facebooks. Not so much on the Facebooks. I mean, I'm kind of there. Not really. But, you can find me there. How about that? And I will catch you all next week, next Monday morning on the SGGQA podcast. Thanks for listening. Have an amazing week with your technology. Do awesome with your technology and have a lot of fun with your technology. I'll catch you back here next Monday. Next week. Be well. I love y'all.